Welcome to another edition of World Views here on Canal de English. Those who have accepted to take part in this edition or the second edition of these programs are, well, for the main, as we begin this program, we have the person you know very well. He is a world-traveled journalist around the continent and is well vested with social, political, and economic issues of Africa and beyond, and sometimes expressing them here and also on social media. He is Henry Kang Atembe. Henry Kang, how are you doing?
Well, fine, thanks very much, Elie, and happy to know that our televiewers are out there watching us.
And the person who will be joining us in a while will be a female journalist that perhaps you know, for those who are watching Canal de Info. Her name is Fallon Kwizé Chunia. She currently is a host of a TV program with the French language Pan-Africanist television Afrique Media. She'll be joining us here. She is also a journalist well known, and she also knows Congo Brazzaville very well because that's where she has stayed. Our focus once again today will be on the Republic of Congo, but it will be after this. This week, as I announced, we will be focusing our attention again on the Republic of Congo. Not for anything positive, but more on negative news. As you already know, last June 16, legislative and local elections were held in Congo Brazzaville. And as a tradition, it was marred by monumental fraud and violence orchestrated by the ruling Congolese Workers' Party, abbreviated PCT. Paradoxically, the violence and fraud of the ruling party is not directed toward the opposition only. Even among them, there is fraud and violence. The star sad case of internal fraud and violence took place in the populous neighborhood of Poto, located north of Brazzaville, precisely within the 31 and 32 electoral district, where little-known Rick Bokilo is challenging an established name, Jean Didier Kourissa. Make no mistake, Jean Didier Kourissa, who is the son-in-law of Sassou Nguesso, is not an angel. However, the situation of Poto showcases how corrupt and violent this regime has become. This week again, it was marked by the disappearance of 3 students, Nelson Apanga, Karel Debon, and Bolokin Snai, respectively Chair, Deputy Chair, and Secretary General of the Congolese Student Trade Union, abbreviated in French as MEEC. Since they are lost, they have not given any signs that they are either alive or dead. They are either on the run and declared wanted by one man, General Jean-François Ndenge, who is the head of the Congolese police force, who is an unapologetic human rights violator. Their crime is that they have asked the government of Congo to pay the scholarship of Congolese students at home and abroad. The country has officially 131 political prisoners at the Brazzaville Central Prison alone, and the star prisoner is Jean-Marie Michel Mokoko. Jean-Marie Michel Mokoko only crime is that he dared challenge Sassou Nguesso in the last presidential elections. The country of close to 4 million, according to official figure, is managed by one family, the Nguesso. And since April 4th, 2016, the government has been waging a war in the Pool region against Frederick Misamu, also known as Pastor Ntumi. And since then, over 80,000 people have been displaced, and the United Nations is today in search of $20 million to help those who have been displaced or maimed because of the war declared by Denis Sassou Nguesso on his very people. Congo is under siege, or to use the South African parlance, Congo is under state capture by one man, Denis Sassou Nguesso. His elder brother, Maurice Nguesso, owns the largest media house, MNCOM, and TV and radio stations. Antoinette Sassou Nguesso, his wife, is a shareholder in several companies, among which is the Swiss-based company Lynx Energy, represented in Congo Brazzaville as X-Oil. Claudia Sassou Nguesso is communications advisor to her father and member of parliament. Denis Christel Sassou Nguesso is also member of parliament and one of the deputy managing directors of the National Hydrocarbon Corporation of Congo, abbreviated in French as SNPC. And he is in charge of the vital position of the sale of crude oil. The other profiteering rings are Julien Johnson, Sandrine Sassou Nguesso, formerly Otenelo, Ninel Sassou Nguesso, the wife of Hugues Ngolondele, the Lord Mayor of the Brazzaville Greater City Council, Edgar Nguesso, and Jean-Jacques Bouya. The list is certainly not exhaustive. This country has been ruled by one man since 1979, and it is an example of a system known as a kleptocracy. Well, that was the point of worldviews today on the Republic of Congo. But before anything, we will have an interlude, and when we come back, we shall go straight away on national and African and world views or world news presented by Albert Etundi. Well, welcome back. As I announced at the end before introducing Albert Etundi, I said this program is Worldview, and as our guest is Kejang Henry Atembe. Before we introduce the feed prepared to us by Albert Etundi, let me ask one or two questions to our guest who is here, Henry Kejang. Henry, after the point of view or the editorial of Worldviews today, what is your opinion on Congo Brazzaville and the Nguesso family?
Well, let me first of all go straight to the point to say that you find a scenario of a nation that has been taken hostage by one family. Any other person that is following or who followed the editorial would tell you the same. And it becomes a very dangerous thing for one nation or a nation to stay in the hands of one family. It becomes like, even in a kingdom, sometimes it is even difficult to think that, well, only the children of the king should occupy very strategic positions in the kingdom. I think power is decentralized. If you have modern kingdoms like in Morocco, where power is decentralized, remember the last move by King Mohammed VI to make sure he delegates powers and more powers to the prime minister. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a dangerous thing to think that, well, all the strategic positions in the country are managed by one family. I think that is the first thing I have to hold. Mm-hmm. I suppose. Then there is this other issue where elections are already projecting an ugly face. Because you mentioned Potopoto. I was in Potopoto, mm-hmm. and I know Potopoto, if you compare Potopoto to Cameroon, it's like Mvogada.
Exactly,
Good.
Or New Bell
or
here.
New Bell here, mm-hmm. or if in Fiango in Kumba, or Sabongari in Gaundere, and so on and so forth, or in Tarikon in Bamenda. When you look at that, if that particular neighborhood, if there is uprising in that neighborhood, which is another strong base of the opposition, it becomes dangerous for the Republic of Congo. Anything can happen. And Congo is going through a very difficult moment. I remember during the African Mining Vision Summit, where we were part of it, the discussion was to see how a country like Congo should be able to diversify its economy that relied entirely on petroleum. Mm-hmm. And you see, that is why they could not diversify it in agriculture, in livestock, and so on and so forth. So it becomes pathetic when I was there, the food that I ate, I discovered that these things were coming from Cameroon. So, in an economy that is not diversified, in a country where probably one family takes the nation hostage, it is not a good signal.
It's not a good signal where one family takes everything hostage. When you were at Poto, before I introduced the feed of Albert Etundi, but before that, when you were at Poto, what did the people tell you?
Now, there is one thing which you have to understand. The people, there is abject poverty. You could make a reading, because I discovered that the inflationary situation in Congo is not good for the people of Congo. While you for example, you can use 50,000 CFA francs for a month for some people here in Douala or in Cameroon as big budget, feed a family. 50,000 francs CFA can feed you, or just a two or family of father, mother, and one child for 2 days.
For 2 days in Congo,
So, in Congo, so it becomes difficult. So you see, the people are living in a very disillusioned and angered situation, and sometimes it's difficult to express because the army is always parading the street. Because I saw them and asking the question, what is happening? You see, they move up and down, which is different. For example, here, if you find an army, sometimes you find them moving to their command post. You might find them moving to the banks to protect them. But when you see army moving up and down, which is not the police, it's not a good sign.
It's not a good sign. Well, before we will come into the crux of the debate today, which is talking about the Republic of Congo, and this program is World Views, we are now going to watch together a composition of African news and also extra African news by Albert Etundi.
Suspension of two Prime Minister's councillors, Gregoire Lifoba and Martin Oyali, on July 24th, a date which marked the first round of elections in Kele and Kigwe district. This shows the situation is hot to trot. These two statesmen decided to run for these elections, Gregoire as an independent candidate against candidate vested on by the Congolese Labour Party, PTC, which was his initial political party. Gregoire Lifoba's decision to decline his candidacy after the July 16th electoral fiasco in his district Kele did not help him, even if his intentions were salutary. Martin Oyali on his side decided to defend the colors of his party, the Accord, at Okoyo after the first round, where he was beaten by PCT candidate on July 16th under tension. It is worth knowing that the two men were suspended for dissidents' retaliation as murmured by the surrounding. But a source from the government explained that the law states that any state agent running for election should resign from his post, especially if he or she runs against the ruling party, notably in rioting regions of the country. Central African Republic this week, the African Union henceforth want to pilot the diplomatic peace efforts, as reported after the AU meeting in Brazzaville last Monday, July 24th this year, as well as the Economic Community of Central African States, the International Conference of the Great Lakes Regions, and governments of Chad, Angola, Gabon, Congo, and Central African Republic have decided to sign a way bill for peace and reconciliation in Central Africa, a document which sets a pace for discussion between armed groups and the CAR government. This new way bill takes into consideration what has been done before, including the benefits of Saint Agidios signed on June in Rome. It also takes into consideration the resolutions taken by the Central African Parliament and the 2015 Bangui Accord. This is an ambitious agenda, even if the Foreign Affairs Minister of CAR, Charles Duban, said it is not possible to accept a general amnesty, and added that they cannot go against Bangui resolutions or the Constitution. The opinion stands against amnesty as well as the parliament. Nobody wants this, he added. An agenda which headgears decentralization, traditional justice, or the status of former heads of states, notably Michel Djotodia and François Bozizé, both on exile. In case they return, they will not be above justice, said the Minister of Foreign Affairs. In Senegal, legislative elections will be conducted next Sunday, July 30th, 2017. In Senegal, each political election means new coalitions, and this year will not be exceptional. In the headquarters of each running political party, last adjustments are made. As the date gains on, several political leaders have already announced their coalition for this major ballot, which will be the last before the 2019 presidential election. A brief review of major candidates from Beno Bok Yaka of Alliance pour la République, APR, Manko Tak Sao, Senegal, of the Parti démocratique sénégalaise, PDS, Ose l'Avenir, a coalition created on May 20th by barrister Aissata Tall Sall, Convergence Politique of Abdoulaye Bald Joyanti, and Dawi Askanwi of Ousmane Sanko are some major coalition parties running for this exercise.
Well, that was the African news and out of Africa, compiled and presented to us by Albert Etundi. Well, that was what we have heard, but before we go into the nitty-gritty, but I would like to ask Kejang one or two questions before introducing, we had an interview with Kejang because you were in Brazzaville, right?
Right.
And I think that the opinions that you express before this program is still valid. When you said something which really which was quite striking, that when you were in Congo Brazzaville, you saw soldiers along the street, patrolling the streets, many soldiers than the police, and to you it rang a bell.
Yeah, it rang a bell. You see, the soldiers cannot be parading the streets regularly when you have the internal security, which is the police. We know the soldier is the defense force, and in other countries or in countries like Nigeria, if you find the soldiers out, know that there is something very serious or something wrong. But when I found that the soldiers were parading, I asked this guy, what is happening? There's one Cameroonian, because when I was with them, I said, but is this how you people live here? He said, yes, they are very used to. But it's not a good sign because they are out to terrorize people. They are passing. It's enough signal that they are sending that nobody should dare. But for the time being, I did not find police officers very regular on the street, because sometimes even you could find the military guys doing control. So, and there is a funny way to do control. You saw every minute of the day, the military guys are controlling vehicles in town. Well, I'm surprised because we don't have it here. That is a different scenario. We don't have it here. We have controls maybe along the major road axes and so on, highways. But then I was surprised to find military people. Then I asked if there is probably a state of siege. Well, they said no. That is how things are operating. So it becomes worrisome, to live in abject fear all the time. And so I asked myself the question, but what could be the reason for such a thing? I remember the last time when I was in Nairobi, I discussed with some guys, and I saw what happened during the summit. And we were with some of the heads of state integrity mixing up and so on, and the roads were never blocked. One guy, I asked them, is this how things are? I say, yes. Even when President Obama came to Kenya, the roads were blocked for 10 minutes to permit him pass. And when he passed, the roads were open. There were no guards and everything. Now, I said, some of our leaders in the Central African sub-region do not behave this way. They were asking, did they not live with you people? Did you all grow together? Were you not, doesn't it come from the neighborhood? Was it not voted legitimately? I said, that is the reason. That is why they are living in fear. Otherwise, if you were voted in what some pretend to call a democratic election, then I don't see any reason why you should be afraid. True, presidents need guards. It's always normal.
Yes. But okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would like our viewers to have a brief view of the interview that we had with you today. That interview was done while waiting for Bruno to prepare that interview wherein you told us how your reaction when you went to Congo Brazzaville, especially when you went to a hotel. That hotel is managed by an activist, a pro-democracy activist in Brazzaville. His name is Joe Washington Ebina, and he told you and asked you to go down the streets of Brazzaville and ask the opinions of the citizens of that very beautiful capital. Remember, Brazzaville was, in those days, the capital of French Equatorial Africa, while Pointe Noire, which is its economic capital today, was the capital of colonial Congo. Now let's watch together. This interview was realized by Bruno, who is a guard here at Canal 2 International, Canal 2 English. So let's get this excerpt of Kejang Henry Atembe. I commence. Bon, okay. Mr. Kejang Henry, you are a journalist and you have traveled far and wide on this continent. You recently went to the Republic of Congo, precisely in Brazzaville.
Yes.
What were your impressions upon reaching in that country, in that capital, which was the former capital of French Equatorial Africa?
Well, Brazzaville, when you get to Brazzaville, immediately you land at the Maya airport. You already find yourself in a very beautiful city, beautifully constructed by the colonial masters, because it was their seat, the seat of their government, and so of course you know that they have to give the standards of the European. But then, for the time I was there, because I went for the African mining vision, so the Congolese were struggling to see how they could expand their economy, since it was only petroleum base oriented. And so you see, that's why most of them work in the banks, in the insurance company. Nobody could go to the farms and so on. Agricultural expansion is absent. But I discovered that there is an aspect of laziness instituted in the Congolese people. You cannot imagine a country that is struggling to emerge. People get up in the morning, the first thing they think of is to go to the nightclub. Very few people probably go to work. People roam the streets. You find them in entertainment areas and so on and so forth. But I think they are struggling to come out of the impasse of economic quagmire.
Yeah. Now the subsidiary question is: you've heard a lot about Denis Sassou Nguesso. As a journalist, what is your own opinion on all the allegations on Denis Sassou Nguesso?
Good. That is a good question. Let me tell you, when I got to Congo, I spent my time in one hotel without any advertisement, Hotel Saphir. So when the boss of Hotel Saphir saw me and discovered I was from Cameroon, I said, "How fine! I have a friend in Cameroon," and we discussed. I read newspapers in my room because I was supplied newspapers, and I discovered that the Congolese are not very happy with Sassou Nguesso. And even that particular guy, he has an English name. Joe Ebina, something like that. Joe Washington Ebina. I discussed with him and I understood that he asked me to even go to the street and interview people, find out what they think about their president. And of course, eventually I did in conversations, not like, and I discovered that, well, too many people are not happy with President Sassou Nguesso, and because their presidency or his presidency or his regime is manned by just a handful of his very close family members and so on. So those things are vexing with the Congolese. And the police is very corrupt. in Congo. I discovered that the police, because I had to have a walk around town, and they told me, I asked if I'm not going to be hurt by thieves, and so they said no. The only thief you can find in Congo is the police. I said, why? The police steal? They said no. The fact that they're highly corrupt is theft. So I discovered that, well, if President Sassou Nguesso has to know these things and is not acting in case the police call, it means even the military should be very corrupt.
Okay.
And so I was very afraid. And you know, there's a lot of negligence. Can you imagine that I left Congo and the money that I had to come back with, you know, my money due me.
That is really telling on a country when Kang went and said the Congolese police is very corrupt, and I can confirm that besides being corrupt, they are very violent. If you have at the head of a police a man called Jean-Francois Ndengue that carries out summary executions, then Kang, your observation was extraordinary. So yes. How did you, in a very short span of time, come out with this kind of whole harrowing assessment on the Congolese?
A very good question, Smith. When you go to a country with a lot of history, you are inquisitive to find out what the country looks like, and that is why I had to move around. For one only good thing, well, not only that I discovered, the taxis were clean compared to Douala. Let us be very frank about this. Clean taxis, air-conditioned taxis, and you see, you bought your taxi, you are alone. No other person comes there and squeezes you like it is done here in Cameroon. I think that is the one good thing I discovered with their green and white taxis. So that inquisitive attitude pushed me to discover more about them. Like I was saying in the interview, there is this very outstanding laziness in the Congolese people. They don't want to work. They want to eat and enjoy. You know, you cannot stop them. That is the culture. And because petrol fuel are plenty, and so they were like in the insurance sector, in the banking, in the finance, in the stock market, in the telecommunications, airlines company, and so on and so forth. They abandoned or neglected the agriculture and other areas like livestock where they could emerge. It's a rich country in terms of where maybe potentials, those potentials are there, but the willingness to develop the economy, because all these people, when you look at the list of the Nguessos lined up, because I was very bitter about in fact, it's not like he's still not bitter. They are very bitter about the fact that the family of Nguesso has taken everything hostage in Congo.
They are very bitter that the family of Nguesso, that is Sassou Nguesso, who started gravitating around power cycle in 1963, and then in 1979 he attended, I can say, the zenith of his power when he overthrew General Yombi Opango, and since then the Nguessos, as you have rightly said, have now taken over the country, and to use a South African parlance, when they talk about the Guptas, the Congo Brazzaville is captured by one family, Denis Sassou Nguesso's family, the Nguessos. Well, I'll be introducing you right now our second guest, who is right here in the studio. Her name is Fallon Kwize Chunya. She is a journalist with Afrique Media, the Pan-Africanist right wing, or I don't know how I can say it, a TV station that defends the value of Africa. And the one good thing with Afrique Media, without any propaganda, is that it has come to open the eyes of most people in French-speaking Africa. They might be excessive at some points, but it is part of free speech. Hello, Fallon Chunya, you have been, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Great. You have been going to Congo Brazzaville. You've spent a number of times there. Will you share the same point of view with Kang, who claims that he discovered a country of very lazy men and women who just simply like to wine and dine? So is that the same assertion? And that perhaps that's the reason why Sassou Nguesso has been there for more than 40 years.
I can say we share the same point of view, but I will say that those people, they are not lazy because they want to be lazy. They are lazy because their government have brought them up in the way that they cannot work.
And that's laziness.
They cannot, the education system is not too good for them. There's an expression in Congo Brazzaville, especially in universities for women in French, that says "seule la cuisse libère." So
which
means sex for max.
Yes.
Yes.
So with those type of things, you cannot go to school and receive a good education. And after that, you are not competent enough to work. And when you are not competent, you cannot work. People will not take you to work with them, and you will be lazy at home as a woman, as a girl, and just wait for men to entertain you. That is a fact. And the problem is that in Congo, you have the south and the north. And people from the south, they are hardworking people.
Industrious.
So, because the government belongs to the north, with Denis, Sassou, Nguesso, and his people, his family, and his region, they are the one working, and they are very lazy. That means they don't go to work. They go to work when they like, and nobody is to be blamed. And people from the south, they just go outside, travel because they need to work. They are hard-working people. Even the agriculture is more developed in the south than in the north. You will see that people from the south region, they are working hard. They are hard-working people, different from northern people in Congo. Okay, and my experience in Congo was very short, but I exercised there as a journalist, and it's a very difficult atmosphere to work. So many journalists there, when you try to be an independent spirit, you are to be blamed because they will say you are a spy, you are working with foreign people to destabilize the country, because most of them are used they are journalists that are not working good. They are just there to praise the regime, and because they are afraid, I don't blame them. It's not that they don't want to work. It's that many of them has been threatened by the government when they are working. When you want to do something, they will come. You will see the police after a program when you are working. Why did you say that Denis Sassou Nguesso is not a good president? Why did you say that there's no water in some areas, in some neighborhood in Brazzaville? So you are very afraid, and you cannot work freely with that type of environment. And most journalists that try to be free there, they are foreign journalists. And at the end, they will just expel you, or they can even beat you up. Mr. Smith, you know what happened, and you know.
That's okay. No, you're very correct.
All right, that's very good. That's something that we have to talk about. If you want to compare with Cameroon, for example, personally, I am very critical about the government of Cameroon, but in Cameroon here, Cameroonians have a measure or degree of freedom. You can express yourself openly, and as Fallon has just said, let me seize this opportunity to inform Cameroonians and the world and Africans that you have a journalist in jail currently in Brazzaville. That makes the number of politically held prisoners, people held because of their political opinions or because they express free speech. You have a journalist called the owner and promoter of a newspaper known as Thalassa. His name is Gis Ngombe Fortuné Ndombe. He is currently in jail, and the only crime, if it is one, that Gis Fortuné Ndombe committed, that is the editor-in-chief and publisher of Thalassa, was that he granted an interview to Frederic Mitsambu, also known as Pastor Ntumi. I would like to turn over to you, Kejang, and ask you this question. Now, is it because, as you spoke with Joe Washington Ebina for a long while, do you think that Denis Sassou Nguesso, you have seen a map there of how the family has a stranglehold? They are into the everything. Oil sector, the banking sector, telecommunications, media, mining, they are all over. That you have the tentacles of the family, right?
Good.
But how do you explain that one man has been in power for so long, violent as he is, corrupt to the core, and yet the Congolese people cannot rise like people of Nigeria, Senegal, Benin, Egypt, Tunisia to say, basta?
You are very correct. President Nguesso, since he came back, after the conflict with Pascal Lissouba, has established a very strong personality cult, and that is, he's using everything that he has as one, the president of the republic, the army, the police, to clamp down on the people. So he has already established that, such that the brutal nature in which he manages the people, in which he quells down uprising, is enough for anybody not to show his ugly head up. And like Fallon said, even in fact, it's an atmosphere where even foreign journalists cannot find it very easy to practice. When we were reporting on the African Mining Vision, it became very difficult to have certain information because they know that they have this information, but they are not even able to give out this information to the people, whereas the economy is slumming. Not everybody, even those who are in the government, not everybody is happy with him. There are those who are in the government, as a matter of, let me just belong and keep quiet. It doesn't mean that they are happy. Even in other African countries, even in Cameroon, there are those who are in government, but they are just there because, well, they should be there, not because they are happy with the government or the regime. So he has used all these to establish a strong base. Now, if all his children are having a stronghold of all the major economic power in the country, the port, like Pointe Noire, I think it's Wilfred, who owns, in fact, it's like his property. So whoever is working there, Wilfred has his tentacles spread out, to know who has to do what. Now, if you have the oil, like Claudia, who are there in the oil sector, like Sandrine, who is in an advisor, and so on. So it becomes difficult for any other person. Well, unfortunately, the man and only man who had to challenge him, or who challenged him, could not live long to continue the fight, especially at this particular time. I'm talking about Bernard Kolela.
Yeah, Bernard Kolela
is dead, and so he cannot now. The only man coming from the south, like Fallon was saying, is no more there to challenge the northerner.
Okay. Now, Fallon, I want to turn over to you. I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, with your media, Afrique Media, you recently interviewed Thierry Mungala, who is the Minister of Communications and Government spokesperson, right? And what did he tell you, if you can also share with us? Because they recently had an election there. I think the second round is going to be held this weekend, if I'm not wrong, on Sunday. And that there was a lot of violence and a lot of corruption there. And then the crisis in the Pool region is going. 80,000 people displaced, women raped, a lot of atrocity taking place there. It's a crisis man-made, created by Sassou Nguesso, right? What did Thierry Mungala tell you?
Okay, when we asked him about the crisis going on in the Pool region, he said it was the handwork of Frédéric Bissamou, alias Pastor Toumi. And we also spoke about the fact that the French government called on Congolese authority to make sure that election takes place in that place because it has been reported. And he was saying that it depends on French government. For them, they have tried, but it could not take place because of Pastor Toumi. And today, there's a lot of family. We are talking about 138 family that need food, that are not living good, and the United Nations has called for funds so that they can help those families.
Are you talking of 138,000
families?
138,000 families need emergency assistance.
Yeah, and the minister explained to us that they are trying to make sure that peace comes to that place, and that there's no way to have a dialogue with Pastor Toumi because he's not considered as a terrorist and they cannot negotiate with him. And the option now is to get him arrested or he leave the country. And the problem is that for so long the Congolese government has been claiming that there's not violence in the pool, that everything was going well, and the United Nations sent someone there. The man produced a report saying that everything is going well in the pool. So why is it now is it that now they need money to help some family that are not living good? That means there is a contradiction between what they are claiming and what is happening. And today they responded by saying that they will not have election in the poll, but they will reconduct those MP that are in those 8 localities for another terms, because they cannot organize the election in that place. And that they can assure that they will do anything possible so that they will arrest Pastor Ntumi.
Pastor Ntumi, let me ask you a question. Isn't that strange that a United Nations representative for Central Africa, that was Mr. Batili. Mr. Batili went to the Pool region precisely at Kinkala, which is the headquarters of the Pool region, and if I understand well, he said there wasn't any problem.
Yeah.
But now, how come, I will maybe turn to Kejang for this question, how come that the same United Nations right now is in search of 20 million US dollars to come to the aid of 138,000 Congolese displaced in the Pool region? It doesn't that sound as though the United Nations itself is playing a game and that they are corrupt? Or that to be plain?
When you hear that,
Mr. Bachili, was it bought over by the Congolese government?
It could be. And you know, sometimes when you are still on the territory, whatever report, sometimes they produce 2 reports, or they make a declaration, and when they are in the plane or at the airport, because you cannot arrest them there or you cannot tag them for anything, they send a report on the ground. 138,000 families in dire need of food is enormous. It's too much for a country of about 6 million inhabitants. And here we're talking about 138 families, not 138,000 families, and not 138,000 people. So if you present a report which is contradictory to what we find on the ground, then they must ask questions. Like you said, was he corrupt? You must ask the question, why would people be dying of hunger, whereas you had earlier on said that the people have no problem? The government now turns and is asking for food from the United Nations, or to feed these people. So it is very suspicious what Muchli said.
Yeah, Batili, he's a Senegalese, and he was also one of the candidates for the post of head of the Commission of the African Union. Now we're turning back onto you, and in view of all this, now let me talk about the press in Congo Brazzaville, right? Compared to Cameroon, right? We cry in Cameroon that we are not free, but at least in Cameroon,
you can shout,
you can insult Paul Biya, and you don't go to jail. But how come in Congo
It's not a matter of insulting anyway.
Yeah,
you can say things against.
Sometimes, to be fair,
I want to put it against.
To be sincere, sometimes our journalists are sometimes excessive, right?
Yeah.
So Cameroon is like paradise compared to Congo Brazzaville. Am I wrong?
You are not wrong.
In the media,
it's like paradise compared to Congo Brazzaville, because it's 2 different countries. Here in Cameroon, the press is a little bit free, and that freedom of speech help the government to improve, because when you don't have a strong press, you cannot improve, because you have to have a press that will always criticize sometimes, so that you will see what you are doing that is not good and you can improve. But the difference between Congo and Cameroon is that here in Cameroon we have independent people that have medias, and they are not, they don't belong sometimes to government or so on. But in Congo Brazzaville, apart from Tele Congo, that is a state TV, we have a private TV. One of them that is called Top TV belongs to Claudia Sassou Nguesso, that is the daughter of the president. MNTV belongs to Maurice Nguesso, that is the elder brother of the president. DLTV belongs to the General Norbert Dabira, that is close to the regime. So you don't have, now they have Vox TV that belongs to Denis Sassou Nguesso, the son of the president. So with all those things, they cannot be free, because they are receiving orders from children of the president or closest people from the regime.
Or directly from the president himself.
The regime. Become sometimes when you are working, they will just tell you, you cannot talk about this, you cannot do this, and you can't, because it won't pass. And they will be calling to say, why did you say that? Why did you do this? and you don't say what they don't want you to say. You don't do what they don't want you to do. And you have to work, they have to work, they have to live, they have to gain something so that they can feed their family. So they don't really have a choice than to work that way.
They don't really have a choice.
That's a blatant state of dictatorship.
That way, yes.
Blatant dictatorship. And I will not be wrong to say that is extreme dictatorship. That is a very clear image of an astute dictator, where people don't have the freedom to even express themselves, like Fallon is saying, where the press can be the watchdog and help the government in shaping its policies and in improving. What is wrong in saying that there is no dialysis, for example, machines, and that kidney patients are dying in hospitals? There is nothing wrong in saying that the machines broke down. It is not like criticizing the government. Of course, machines can break down because there are machines. So if you announce that the machines have broken down, the government should be able to say yes, thanks to the media, because sometimes the information doesn't even go up to the government or to whoever is responsible for taking a decision, for making decisions. So I believe it is not even helping. They are not helping their father, because if their father has to stay long in power, if they wish or if he wishes, then it's going to be thanks to them.
Okay, I want to make a kind of comparison back to Cameroon. Recently in the Republic of Congo, at their main hospital, which was then a reference hospital during colonial rule, that's the Brazzaville University Teaching Hospital, you don't have dialysis, you don't have antiretroviral drugs, and the place is so filthy. Even
the oxygen.
And the oxygen is absent. And when the directress there of the Brazzaville General Hospital, Brazzaville University Teaching Hospital, raised an alarm, she was simply sacked. Whereas in Cameroon, you saw all the brouhaha that people made about the absence of dialysis
and so on.
And so on and so forth. Which means that, to be fair, right? Because in order to be respected, you also need to be able to say where it is better. I think that Cameroon, as far as press freedom is concerned, is a light years ahead of Brazzaville. Congo Brazzaville cannot hold a candle to Cameroon in terms of press freedom. Now, I will turn back to you before coming back on Kejang, right? Tell me now, where do we go from here? What will happen to Congo in Congo Brazzaville? Do you think Sassou Nguesso will continue there till 2023 and then leave over to his son Denis Sassou Nguesso? Or some people think that we are going straight on, we are on the highway to another civil war. What is your opinion?
I think that they are going towards a civil war, and there's a little problem, because even if they got there, it will not be because of the people of the opposition, because they are not united for the moment. And the problem is not coming among the people of the regime. Some of them are not happy because the president is preparing his son to take over, and that now it makes some kind of division inside the regime, even inside the family, because there is a part of the family that doesn't want, there are some children in the family that did not like Denis, Christelle, and his sister Claudia. And Denis and Claudia, they have their clan, the others have their clan. That same division creates a lot of problem even in the center of the Parti Congolais du Travail, PCT. And in the other hand, you have opposition that is not united. They tried to get united before the elections, but the problem was that when General Jean-Marie Mokoko come in, the South opposition, people original from the South, they were not sure that Jean-Marie Mokoko will be in front. And when the result come out, he was in front. It was like they don't want somebody from the North to be in front. Guy Parfait Kolela was not, is it Guy
Parfait Kolela, the son of Bernard?
He was not happy because he thinks he's from the South, and his people, we give him the voices, but they give it to Jean-Marie Michel Mokoko. That makes them divided, and they were not solidaire enough, sorry. And after that, they cannot fight to defend the result that they claim was not, President Sassou was not the winner of the elections. So today, the general is in prison. Some of them, they are not united, they got dislocated. Even the coalition is not working well because there is a kind of war of position, and they cannot fight President Denis Sassou Nguesso. So the only problem that is taking place is the war between the family's member and people inside the Parti Congolais du Travail, and that will be very difficult because there are some generals working for the president that doesn't want the son of the president to take over his father.
That's very good. So as you hear the analysis of Fallon, who seems to understand the nitty-gritty of the Congolese government, where she's saying that the opposition is weak, divided and that the power tussle, in fact, in the opposition weakens them, but that the real fight is within the family of the president, who do not, there is a section that doesn't want Denis Christel to take over.
That is true.
And that within the Congolese ruling party, which is like the alter ego of the CPDM here, that is the PCT. So what is your take on that? Because we are going to the end of the program.
Yes, you know, Denis Christel had been profiled some time ago as the eminent successor of his father. Just like other, Frank Biatou was profiled, Idris Deby Jr. was profiled, etc. All the leaders, Theodore of Equatorial Guinea, they were profiled as the eminent successor of their parents. And now we see a case where within the family circles, they are equally divided. So it might get to a point where somebody inside the family will be a sellout. And that will fragilize the family. They will lose the grip. And the opposition, if they are united, can now harvest the gains.
Thank you very much, Kejang Henry Atembe. I also want to thank you very much, Fallon Jr., for having taken the pains to come here. Do you have one thing or two to say before we take off?
I have something to say before we take off, is that the Congolese authority should try to invest in things that are benefit for their people, because they don't have enough hospital to take care of their people. They don't have roads to travel inside the country, but they will build airport that people are not using. And even if they build airport, how many Congolese, I mean the low classes, how many Congolese have the money to pay the ticket? When you want to travel inside the country, you have to spend like 100,000 to go in and to come back. So it is very difficult. They have to invest so that their people can be at least happy. And if they want to do what they want to do, they should take care of the people, because it's those people that allow them to be there.
Thank you very much. May I also add that the chairman of the board of directors of a bank called BGFE Bank, Congo, Brazzaville, is called Jean-Dominique Okemba. He is a special advisor to the President of the Republic and the nephew. And you also have the majority shareholder of a local bank called LCB Bank. It's called Hubert Pandino. He is the friend to the president, and it is suspected that he is a kind of straw man. I want to encourage all of you who like reading that this week we are recommending you to read this very fantastic book. This book, the author of this book is Philip N. Howard. The name of the book, I recommend it properly. I recommend this book for you. The name of the book is Pax Technica, How the Internet of Things May Upset. Let me put it first on screen before giving you the name. And while Frank Henry Nonga is permitting you to have a clear view of the book, this program was made possible thanks to Patrick Chamani, also known as Le Mignon Patrick, Frank Henry Nonga, Albert Etundi, Ornella Michel, Jean Fandio, and next week we will be focusing our attention on one country, Kenya, and let us give you a preview of what you will have on Kenya next week, and courtesy our own Henry Kejang Atembe. Let's have a view of that, because we're going to be focusing on Kenya. I remember the Kenyan elections is coming, and the two challengers there are Raila Odinga versus Uhuru Kenyatta. Can we please, Patrick Chamani, have a preview of what we're going to have next week here on Worldview.
The political future of Kenya now depends on two big camps, that is the opposition National Super Alliance, known as NASA, and the incumbent ruling Jubilee of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now both camps have been pushing the buttons ahead of August 8 elections that will be coming up. But then, what is the political future of this country? The perspectives are abound. Kejang Henry Atembe and Tayu Collins for Canada English in Nairobi, Kenya.
That will be next week, where we'll bring again on board Kejang Henry Atembe to tell us about the inside of the Kenyan presidential elections. He had an interview with a spokesman of the President of the Republic. And once again, I want to thank Patrick Chamani, Frank Henry Nonga, Albert Etundi, and Jean Fandio for having made it possible for this program to be broadcast live today from Douala. Next week is another day, God willing.